6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in South of America, where the Treasury Department has announced a policy adjustment allowing limited offloading of liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) shipments to Venezuela. This decision is aimed to balance the economic sanction enforcement with global energy and humanitarian needs. The move reflects a nuanced approach to addressing potential unintended consequences in international energy markets while maintaining regulatory oversight, putting a big pinch on the Venezuelan government. From Reuters, quote, by allowing some offloading of LPG, we aim to mitigate unintended consequences impacting global energy markets and to balance our enforcement of economic sanctions with the necessity of supporting food and energy security, a Treasury spokesperson stated. Next, we travel across the Atlantic to Africa, where Kenyan police have blocked key roads into Nairobi to prevent access to the city center on the anniversary of the 1990s pro-democracy protests. The opposition alliance planned events to honor activists who fought for multi-partyism, amid ongoing tensions over the low cost of living in recent protests. The government's heavy police presence reflects the political polarization and concerns about potential unrest. From Reuters, quote, the road closures come after a week of tension where opposition protests led to clashes with police. The opposition Azimu, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, sir, La Omja, contends that President William Ruto has not lived up to his campaign promises, particularly elevating economic hardship. And there have been 11 reports of people injured during these protests. Next, we travel back to the North American continent, across the Atlantic, to Mexico, which plans to construct a new sterile fly production facility in Chiapas in 2026, capable of generating 1 billion sterile male screwworms weekly. Using the sterile insect technique, these flies will mate with females, preventing reproduction and ultimately reduce the screwworm population. The project represents a significant biotechnological effort to protect livestock and wildlife, with international cooperation from the United States and other organizations. From Reuters, quote, the facility, which represents a significant investment in this technology in agriculture, is being established in the state of Chiapas near the border with Guatemala, Mexico's agricultural minister said. Next, we travel across the Pacific, where Japan is being hit by a 25% tariff on goods, causing immediate market volatility and potential strain on international economic relations. The decision raises concerns about a possible escalating trade conflict that could undermine global economic recovery efforts. Economists and trade analysts warn that this move may have far-reaching consequences for both countries and broader international economic landscape. From Reuters, quote, it's not just about Japan. Mark Richardson, an economist specializing in global markets, this decision could cascade into broader trade markets that no country could afford right now, given the economic uncertainties. Countries are striving to stabilize their markets, and such a move has threatened those efforts, end quote. Next, we go down to Australia, or, well, more accurately, the continent of Australia, or Oceania, where New Zealand has maintained its official cash rate of 3.25% in July, despite expectations of one more potential rate cut this year. Economic challenges include slowing GDP and inflation remaining below the target rate, prompting considerations for further money stimulus. From Reuters, quote, we understand the challenges that the current global and domestic economic market presents, with inflation continuing to track below our target range and slower than expected GDP growth. It's crucial for us to adopt a stance that could prompt economic stimulation, the National Bank of New Zealand said. And finally, we travel up to Europe, where Ireland plans to excavate a mass grave at the Tomb of Mother and Baby Home in County Galway in 2025. Which remains up with where the remains are of up to 796 children were discovered in 2017. The site, operated by Bonscory's sisters in 1925 to 1961, was associated with high infant mortality linked to malnutrition and disease. The government has passed legislation to carefully recover the remains and potentially return them to families through DNA testing. From Reuters, quote, from all that we know and the information that was carefully gained by the Commission of Investigation, we know that the remains of infants, children, and babies lie across the site. Minister for Children Roderick Godorms said, "It's a case where the state needs to carry out this technical, legally complex, and extremely sensitive excavation project," end quote. And of course, if you want to read any of today's articles in their entirety, they'll all be linked in the description below. That like and subscribe button. Also, now there you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as a Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post the links to these episodes that come out on Tuesday and Thursday, as well as the domestic U.S.-based podcast that comes out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say: stay safe, don't die.